We're at Lord's Cricket Ground for the 14th Cross British Sportsbook of the Year Awards. It is a star-studded event. We are going to reveal extraordinary and fascinating stories and find out about the highs and lows of some of our sporting heroes.
We'll be crowning the winners of the very best sports books. Awards tonight include the best autobiographies and biographies, the best cricket, cycling, football and rugby books of the year. There'll be awards for outstanding sports writing, for new writing and for the best illustrated and international sports books. Plus, we'll be honouring the legendary football writer Brian Glanville for his outstanding contribution to sports writing.
Well, Ali is going to be in the green room talking to all of our winners tonight. I'm going to host the event. You can get involved as well. You can vote for the overall sportsbook of the year by picking from the individual winners. Sit back, relax. It's going to be a great night.
Running, racing, cycling, swimming, football, it's a real mixed bag, and I think that kind of makes it quite interesting.
I'm excited about being here and being part of it, and I didn't realise really what a huge deal it is.
6 quality books to read, some subjects I knew a lot about, some I didn't know anything about, so it's a real experience.
No, it's just entertaining to come along and see a few of the other sports, various other things going on.
I know the cricket panel particularly well. They said the standard was the highest they could remember.
All I can tell you is it's very, very close, and whoever gets it will deserve it.
There's a great array of talent there, and I just feel very honoured to be in amongst them and hopefully with a chance.
For people who've written wonderful pieces of work, for them to get a reward for that, I think is a really good thing.
I thought this year that 2 or 3 books stood out, it helped in the judging, but we had to kick things around, and I think it's a worthy winner again.
There was so much in the story, you know. It's easy to remember the snooker matches because you have the videotape of those games. But going back to the late 60s when Steve first started playing snooker, it was a very, very different sport.
I wanted just to tell to all the fans the true story of Marco Negri, and it was really, really interesting, and was something really natural.
So I'm very excited to be here because I love sports, and here I am surrounded by athletes.
Well, the crowd are about ready. We're ready to get underway, so let's get over to Mike and find out who the first winner is.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome to this happy anniversary occasion, the 14th Annual Cross Sportsbook Awards. And welcome to all our nominees, authors, sports stars, journalists and publishers. My co-host tonight is Test Match Specials' Alison Mitchell. I'll be hosting the awards ceremony in here. Alison is backstage in the green room up in the media centre, and she's chatting with all of tonight's winners. Alison, looks like it's going to be a great night.
Hi Mike, hello everyone. Yep, I'm up here in the iconic media centre, and I found a few friends. Rent a crowd are in. We're really looking forward to meeting some of the winners when they pop up here to have a chat afterwards. I hope you all have a good evening. Are you ready, guys? Yes. We'll warm up as the night goes on. Have a great night over there in the nursery pavilion.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Cross British Sportsbook Awards. Let's get underway with the first award of the evening. It's the Getty Images Illustrated Sportsbook of the Year Award. Let's take a look at the books on the shortlist.
1/1000th, the sports photography of Bob Martin, Vision Sports Publishing. Triathlon, a tribute to the world's greatest triathletes, courses and gear, Matthew Baird, Oram Press. St Andrews, in the footsteps of old Tom Morris, Roger McStravick, St Andrews Press. This is Anfield, Mark Platt with William Hughes, Carlton Books. Le Tour de France 2015, the official review, Vision Sports Publishing. Richie Bernot, Those Summers of Cricket, Paul Connolly, Hardy Grant Books.
The winner is 1000th by Bob Martin.
Thank you very much to Vision Sport Publishing for helping me do my book, which is fantastic. They let me do it how I wanted to, in my way, and it was marvellous to be able to do that, so thank you for that. And that's about it. So thank you very much.
Bob Martin, congratulations. You have won an award for, this beautiful book. This is your career, 30 years.
It is, I'm
in
afraid.
One book.
Yeah, the heaviest book ever to win an award.
You need a big coffee table.
You do, yes, yeah. Some people have put legs on that book.
Does it encapsulate your career in the way you wanted it to?
Totally. The publishers let me more or less do it my way, and it's all my best pictures. There's nothing missing from it. It's not like I'm looking back and thinking page 34 should have been, such and such a frame.
And has sports photography got easier in the digital age?
Well, that's an interesting question. Most people think it has. The modern camera is incredibly technologically clever. It's got auto exposure, auto focus, digital, etc., etc. So everything's got easier technically. But when I first started, a good sports photographer was somebody who had mastered the long lens, who could manually focus with the subject as they ran towards you. So you're more of a technician than a photographer. So now that the cameras have come along and technologically helped us, and I certainly wouldn't be a sports photographer now if it was the old cameras, because my eyes stopped being really good at about 28. So I'm still here working at a reasonable level because of the technology the cameras give you. But equally, it's meant that you become more of a photographer, in that I can capture Linford Christie running towards me with both feet off the ground every time I pick the camera up now, whereas back in the 90s, that was something special.
And you might have had just like 4 exposures to play with.
I might have just one of him with both his feet off the ground. Now everyone who runs around the corner have got both their feet off the ground, they're filling the frame, so that's what the technology's brought you. And
is there in this tome one particular photo which is your personal favourite, or is that too difficult?
The most successful picture in there is the one of Xavier Torres, the disabled swimmer at the Athens Olympics, shot from above, where he left his legs behind against the chair and he's diving in, looking directly from above. That won me World Press Photo of the Year, and it also was in a portfolio that helped me win Sports Photographer of the Year that year. So it's a fantastic picture for me, and it's won more awards than any other picture. So that's perhaps my favourite picture.
Well, you've got another award now to add to those you've won already. Bob Martin, congratulations on the award. Well done.
Now, on to our third award of the evening, the Time Sports Biography of the Year. First, though, let's see the shortlisted books and hear the thoughts of the judges who reviewed them.
So I hope everybody's done their homework over the last few months.
Nothing else. It was a pleasure. Actually, some really good reads.
This is Great by Richard Tomlinson. It's got a brilliant opening in which you get a sense of WG in his final years, still trying to organise games, still writing to the secretary of Eltham Cricket Club about the state of the wicket.
John Cross, I know very well. He's, in journalism terms, he's Mr. Arsenal. And I think the book really about Arsene Wenger really drips with his sort of contacts and his knowledge. He's done a great job of journalistic rigour on it.
I think as somebody who, back in the midst of time, did a degree in history, I really look forward to this one. Bill Richmond, black boxer, born a slave.
It's an amazing tale.
Came to England and was very much the sporting celebrity of the time back in the 18th century and early 19th century.
So we're talking about the first black superstar, we're talking about a cricketing superstar, as you say, bigger than Beckham and Ronaldo, who it sort of feels as if he's off the scale, but as you say, you can make fascinating comparisons where the WG was bigger in his time in many ways even than Ronaldo feels today. Two of the books that we've come back to sort of again and again are almost the opposite scale. People certainly I hadn't really heard of, and that's almost the sort of mystery and magic of those two books.
Speed Kings, about the first Winter Olympics, 1928, and the 1932 Olympic Games as well. The American bobsleigh team. It's not Cool Runnings at all. This is proper early days of bobsleigh. They were still figuring out whether to lie on their front or lie on their back or sit up or lean forward or whatever. And this is just an incredible read.
The scope and scale of that book is just astounding. As someone who's tried to write a book, and found the amount of research for that hard enough, this was almost mind-blowing as a journalist.
And the great thing that Donald McRae has done here, I think, is just really powerfully intertwined the sporting story with the social context of the time, with gay rights, with all this civil rights, all this stuff that's happening in America, and right in the middle, Emil Griffith, this massive American boxer who's just, I think, 5-time world champion.
Right, those were the choices. Matt Dickerson there, very humble, because he was a recipient last year of this very award for his fantastic biography of Bobby Moore. If you haven't read it, please read it. Now, despite this, there can only be one winner. So Annie, come and have a quick chat with us. We're in Olympic year. Of course, Great Britain did fantastically in London, home games. Can you see that sort of thing being reciprocated in Rio?
No.
Why?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think there'll always be a natural kind of rise and fall in any successful system. And the British Olympic team has been so successful over the last however many years building up to London. I think there was a few athletes who perhaps extended their careers in order to go to a home games. And emotionally, so many sports will have geared up for that home games. There's always going to be a natural lull afterwards. I think it's unlikely they'll do as well. And of course, Rio will have its own challenges.
Open that envelope and tell us who's won.
Here we go. And the winner is Speed Kings by Andy Bull.
Congratulations, Andy. It's all yours.
All mine. I'm afraid I don't have an appropriate quote from Wordsworth to deliver, although I feel like I should. Instead, I'd just like to say I'm very honoured to have won this. It was a very strong shortlist, and anytime I beat my colleague Don McRae to a prize like this, I know I've done really very well indeed.
Andy Bull, many congratulations. You've won the award for Speed Kings, where you tell the story of 4 rather extraordinary men and a bobsleigh. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's a very long story, but the short version is it's the 4 men who won the gold medal at the 1932 Winter Olympics in the bobsledding for the USA. And they all have their own incredible stories. So it's kind of 4 life stories, really.
How did your interest first get piqued by them?
Yeah, great question. It was this one fact that only one athlete in history has ever won a gold medal at the Summer Olympics and also the Winter Olympics. And when I found that out, I thought, that has to be a great story. I'd love to know more about that man's life. And it turned out he was one of the 4 men in this bobsleigh. What these men's lives were building towards ultimately was the Second World War. And only one of them actually survived the Second World War. The driver, who's really the hero of the book, his name was Billy Fisk. And he was a phenomenally talented driver and bobsleigh driver. And he became the first American airman to die in the Second World War. So a lot of the book is really his story about joining the Royal Air Force in Britain and fighting in the Battle of Britain, and ultimately how he died in the Battle of Britain. And as I say, only one of them survived the war, so it's it's quite poignant in that sense.
Well, our judges clearly loved it. Andy Bull, congratulations on the award.
Thanks.
Well, it's been a busy night so far, but there is lots more to come. After the break, we'll be chatting to even more winners, and we'll be reminding you how you can vote for your overall Sportsbook of the Year. Don't go away.
As you've seen, we've got some sports stars in the room, and we're going to make some of them sing for their supper by asking them to come up on stage and have a chat with us. Now, all of these nominees tonight are authors of notable autobiographies, so they could win. So on that note, gentlemen, you're all former sportsmen now. How much do you want to win, Nigel?
If it's a golf game, absolutely.
But a book?
Well, I mean, this is my first time anything like this, and I have to say, quite honestly, I feel very overwhelmed. So I'm just happy to be here and on this great occasion, and just feel very thrilled to be part of it.
We used to play rugby, so I know you're not. So
Oh,
you
come on.
want to win.
No, I'm happy to be here too, Michael. I'm an Australian, I'm a nice guy. You know, I just feel very inadequate up here against the world's greatest jockey of all time and the magician down the end. I mean, very inadequate at all. I know it's just great to be here, and I mean, see so many well-known people in here and in the literature world as well, not one that some of us sportsmen normally mix in, and it was good to see that the picture books were up here. They're my favourites.
Now, when you were riding, I guess you didn't get to come to things like this where there was food. Do you just sit here and think, I am going to go crazy and eat everything?
I've put on about 2 stone since in a year.
Yeah,
so,
it shows.
Yeah, I'm about 2 stone heavier than I was this time last year. I eat breakfast and things like that, which I never had before, you know. I kind of used to eat once a day, really. Sometimes, maybe not, might not have that privilege, really, sometimes, but... So I don't miss that side of not being a jockey anymore. I don't miss not eating. I love having my breakfast and I love eating, so... in a crazy kind of way, I miss the danger. I know that sounds a bit mad, but I miss the danger and I miss the thrill of going racing every day, and in some ways I miss the danger of it, you know.
England going down under shortly, England rugby that is. England coach, England coming off a Grand Slam, how scared are you?
Well, I'm not playing, so I'm okay. I think it's going to be a wonderful series, you know, and we've got England have now bitten the bullet and got a very polite, gentle coach in Eddie Jones. But he's inherited, I think, a pretty good squad. Yes, of course they didn't do very well at the World Cup, but they were inexperienced, including the coaching staff. They've now been through a bad experience that, you know, how many of us have been through bad experiences and they've benefited us in the long run, and I think England's been through that. They've now got a guy that's sort of changed things around a little bit, told them they're good and go out and win, and they're doing that, and they're a good squad. It's going to be a great series, and really looking forward to it, actually. Living here in London, I hope Australia win, because it's no fun living in here in London if Australia lose to England.
Last word to you, Nigel. We see these unbelievable cars, the engineering beyond belief that the Formula One drivers drive. Was it harder when you drove than it is now?
What the FIA have done, and obviously the technology of the manufacturers, is just absolutely astounding, and I'm sure Max will agree, the pioneering of the future of Formula One and the safety, when you think only one driver sadly has lost their lives over the last 20 years, and in fact in my short career there's something like 24 drivers died, and some years we had a 20% chance of dying. So it was very, very different now, but of course the technology in the cars is just fascinating. And in fact, if I wasn't sort of just over the age of 28, I'd be trying to drive for Ferrari or Mercedes again. I really would. It's truly fantastic.
Well, it's fantastic to have the three of you up here. It's been brilliant. Good luck with your books. I hope you all win. I know you can't because you're in the same category and all that, but you know. Nigel Mansell.
Thank you.
Sir Anthony McCoy. Michael Liner. Thanks, boys. Brilliant. Thanks, boys. Now, our next category is a new category. It is the Cross International Autobiography of the Year, and it recognises great overseas sportsmen and women who struck a chord right here in the UK with their tales of sporting success and honesty. Let's see the nominations.
Aussie Grit, My Formula One Journey, Mark Webber, Anne McMillan. Blindsided, Michael Liner with Mark Eglinton, Harper Sport. Commitment, My Autobiography, Didier Drogba, Hodder and Staunton. Dan Carter, The Autobiography of an All Blacks Legend, Dan Carter, Headline. Moody Blue, The Story of Mysterious Marco, Marco Negri and Jeff Holmes, Pitch Publishing. My Fight, Your Fight, Ronda Rousey, Arrow.
The winner is My Fight, Your Fight, Ronda Rousey.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Sorry she couldn't be here, but when she asked me if I could come, I was really excited, but I thought that the winner would probably be something like rugby or Formula One or soccer and quintessentially British, not a book about a UFC fighter who's not just a woman and an American, but an amazing fighter and an amazing person and an amazing sister, because I would know. And I know this is the part where I think our publisher and our agents and my husband and people's eyes start to glaze over. So I really just want to thank our mom, who is basically the soul behind everything that went into it, all the snappy little things that we started the chapters with. We call them Rhonda-isms, but we stole them a lot from our mom, literally sometimes verbatim. So I wanted to say thank you, Mom, from Rhonda and I, and thank you to the judges and to everyone who read our book. So thank you so much.
Maria, welcome.
How was it to collaborate with her to tell that story?
It was really good. And one of the things I've always said is, I figured at the end of it we would either be closer than ever or we would not speak for a while. But it ended up being the first, so it was good. There was times where it was tough, but being her co-author and her sister, I could show up at her doorstep and knock on it and say, "We're finishing this now, let me in." So it worked out really well.
And what are the particular challenges that she's had to face as the first female champion in mixed martial arts?
I think the biggest thing with her has been nobody thought it could be done. Nobody ever thought a woman could come into the UFC, period. I mean, Dana White said it himself. It was never going to happen. And so to go up against something that nobody really believed except for her would ever be possible, I think that kind of summed it up. And I think she'd had a lot of moments like that in her life where people didn't know if she would be able to do things or didn't think that she could pull it off. And she did. So it's kind of that journey to just one more obstacle that couldn't be broken through that she blew past.
What do you think she would make of winning this award?
Oh, well, I called her after I walked out. I called her and she was with my mom and we put on speakerphone. And in Ronda fashion, there was a little bit of swearing, but excited swearing. So yeah, she was thrilled.
Well, do pass our congratulations on to Ronda. You have already. But enjoy the rest of the night. Okay. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you so much,
everyone.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, on to the Barclays Football Writers Book of the Year. So let's have a look at the shortlist for 2016.
Cristiano Ronaldo, Guillaume Balaguer, Orion. Living on the Volcano, Michael Calvin, Century. Arsene Wenger, John Cross, Simon & Schuster. The Dirty Game, Andrew Jennings, Century. Forever Boys, James Lawton, Wisden. Match Days, Ronald Reng, Simon & Schuster.
So the Football Writers Book of the Year. Now, the winner, the book Cristiano Ronaldo by Guillaume Balaguer.
Mamá, papá, después de 25 años en Inglaterra, parece que las cosas me han ido bien. Esto es para vosotros. I was just telling my parents that 25 years after arriving to England, things seem to be going quite well. So I want to thank the panel, first of all. The quality of the books is just unbelievable. So it's an honor to take this home. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well done, Guillaume.
Guillaume, congratulations.
Thank you
The
very
football category always seems to be a very tough one. What drove you to want to write about Cristiano Ronaldo?
I've come from 3 journeys that kind of took me to Cristiano. So I wrote about Liverpool in 2005 when we won the Champions League against Milan, Istanbul. Then I wrote about Pep Guardiola. Of course, then I had to write about Messi. Once you've done that, it's like, right, that's what Messi was about, but what's Cristiano about? So it was almost like an automatic choice, and I'm very proud to have done that journey.
So what did you find out about him that you didn't already know?
You go with a lot of prejudices, so you think, he's vain and he's arrogant and this and that, and look at the gestures, but I had been privileged to be in his company a few times, presented some of his commercial events, so I had been in the so-called green room. I had seen a different side to him, but I wanted to know more. The interesting thing about the book, of course, is that it started as a book that I was going to do with him, but if he got upset for something I'd said in the Messi book about him,
right,
which meant that the process changed completely straight away in a matter of 2 weeks.
So you're saying you were in his bad books?
Yeah, I was.
So how did you turn it around then in order to write about him rather than
with
him?
So then the answers are, again, freer. You just go and explore and look at the psychology and the sociology behind it and where all those things come from. Which, again, it's a completely different experience of a book of the one I expected, having come from the first authorized book on Messi. And then going to Ronaldo and not being, overlooked by his people, who, if you've seen his movie, is something that they do very thorough.
Guillaume Balaguer, congratulations. Brilliant book on Cristiano Ronaldo.
Thank you very much.
Guillaume Balaguer, everyone. Right, do stay with us for the British Sportsbook Awards. We'll see you right after this break.
Now, though, we come to a very special award. It's one presented only a few times over the 14-year history of our awards, and only then to very deserving recipients. It's the Outstanding Contribution to Sports Writing. Last year's winner was the broadcaster and writer Sir Michael Parkinson. This year, though, we focus on the sport of football and the career of one of the most celebrated and influential journalists of our time.
Well, the first time I came across Brian was I was a young reporter in South London, and I was at a match at Charlton, and I came home and my dad was a football writer, and I said, I said it was a good game, and but there was a man in the press box who conducted a conversation across 5 rows, which lasted most of the first half. And my dad said, oh, that would have been Brian Glanville. So, and I met him in Milano when I was working for Inter at a lunch that I shared with him and my wife, and he regaled us with many interesting stories about his life, not only in Italy, but of course his work in England up to that point.
Well, Brian's been a columnist for World Soccer for many, many years. He first wrote for the magazine in the early 60s and began a column in the 70s, and he's been a continued presence ever since.
Well, this is a man who started at the age of 17. He's about to hit 85 this year, so he's been on the go for nearly 70 years with no sign of retirement, no holidays, no diminishment so far as I can see in his energy. So he is quite inspirational, but also I think quite terrifying to most ordinary mortals.
Brian Glanville, to me, he means the doyen of football writers. Simple as that. He's someone I've admired since I first started reading newspapers. I remember reading his stuff as a teenager, reading the Sunday Times, actually getting quite angry about his take on Bobby Robson. But that's part of the joy of Brian. You know, he had firm opinions. He's never been afraid to write them. I think he's always said that, you know, the greatest quality journalists can have is their independence, and he certainly showed it.
His ideas and opinions are always well thought out, well researched. He's not someone who will jump onto a bandwagon.
I mean, ultimately, he was the guy who first nailed Sepp Blatter. He saw through Michel Platini. He's already got the measure of Gianni Infantino, the new FIFA president.
He was never afraid, has never been afraid to back his judgment. Yeah, he's an individualist, Brian Glanville, and the game's been better for him.
So these awards tonight very much celebrate sports writing, and I think if there's one regret my father has, it's that in British culture, unlike American culture, I think he's always felt that there's a certain snobbery towards sports writing. In America, you can be a great sports writer, and I think that he would have loved it if British culture too had that same recognition that you could be a great literary writer, a great sports writer, without there being a distinction.
His literature's phenomenal. The plays that he's written, and you always get the impression that he would have been happier as a playwright, as a novelist, rather than a football writer. But he's an extraordinary body of work.
Probably going to steal this line from someone, I don't know who said it, but someone said that 90% of football writers are influenced by Brian Glanville, and the other 10% should be. I don't think there's any greater tribute than that.
So Brian, I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight. As you know, I'm preparing for the Euros, but I wish you a wonderful evening and many, many congratulations on this very, very well-deserved award. I hope you have a great time.
To present the trophy and mark the moment, please welcome back on stage Bob Wilson.
Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. This is a huge, huge privilege for me to be asked to present the Outstanding Contribution to Sports Writing Award. As you know, it goes to a man who's dedicated his entire writing life to sport and to football in particular. An individual who began that career in football journalism at the tender age of 17, had his first book published before he was 20. Here it is. It's an Arsenal book, by the way. Treasured now because it's been signed by Brian tonight for me. He had that published before he was 20, and who now in his mid-80s continues to educate and entertain his readers. It's pretty easy to find suitable words to describe him and his writing. Brilliant, honest, dedicated, passionate, riveting, an acerbic critic of the game of football, fearless, even ruthless. There are a few, I think, accurate descriptions. Ruthless, you may question my saying that, ruthless, but I think, for instance, his description of Sepp Blatter merits that. This is a quote from Brian about Sepp Blatter. Sepp Blatter, 50 ideas a day, 51 of them bad. Now that's reasonably ruthless. In fact, a very prominent American sports journalist, Paul Zimmerman, he's actually called Brian Glanville the greatest football writer of all time. And the timing, I think, ladies and gentlemen, of this award, following one of the greatest achievements ever in sporting history, not just in the football world, is perfect, as our recipient's middle name couldn't be more appropriate. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my very great pleasure to present the Outstanding Achievement Award to Brian Lester Glanville.
It's marvellous, actually, and not only to receive this award, but receiving it at Lord's, because I have such an extraordinary memory of the first time I ever came here, this Sanctum Sanctorum, and it was way back in the summer of 1942, and I couldn't even tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. But the perverse tricks of memory. I have an absolutely pin-sharp memory of coming here, seeing what I saw, and seeing incidents in the game. My other memory, very sharp memory, is a very, very different one. And fast forward, please, 19 years or so, by which time I had the Sunday Times sports column, and I went to Lord's and I sat on the terrace, the balcony, next to the great Freddie Truman, who was, of course, a marvellous bowler and was extremely kind and extremely friendly and very helpful, until suddenly a large, rather rubicund young man in an Oxford blazer turned up and said, "Hello, Freddie, I am afraid I've been sent down." And to which the reply was, "Ah, you silly and a Rabelaisian flow which I wouldn't even, with this mixed audience, begin to try to reproduce. And this was the other side of it. This was the other side of Lord's. Of course, it's fine to come back here again, but one has so many football memories and so many... is it an achievement to have been kicked by Ronnie Corbett on the Slough Greyhound Stadium? It did happen to me in a charity match. Jimmy Hill was the referee, but he didn't seem to see it. And at half-time, Jim Taylor, an ex-Fulham centre-half who was playing for us, we didn't need him, actually. It was a very easy game. We went to the dressing room, he said, "He kicked you, didn't he?" I said, "Well, possibly. Didn't really feel it." "You know what you want to say? You know what you want to say if he does that again? You want to say, 'I'm on this field the same as you are.'" I know I'm really meant to talk for only 3 minutes, but I'm a natural frustrated stand-up. And with which thought I think I'll close, and thank you.
Hello and welcome back. I'd like to remind you that you can vote for your overall favourite to be the overall sportsbook of the year, and you do that by going to the website www.britishsportsbookawards.co.uk and cast your vote there.
Our penultimate award tonight is the Arbuthnot Latham Best Rugby Book of the Year. And here are the nominations.
Bomb, My Autobiography, Adam Jones, headline. Man and Ball, Stephen Ferris, Transworld Ireland. No Borders, Playing Rugby for Ireland, Tom English, Arena Sport. The Iron Curtain, My Rugby Journey from League to Union, Phil Larder and Nick Bishop, Pitch Publishing. After the Final Whistle, Stephen Cooper, The History Press. The Oval World, A Global History of Rugby, Tony Collins, Bloomsbury.
So, winning for the second time in this category, the Rugby Book of the Year is No Borders, Playing Rugby for Ireland by Tom English.
Gosh, thank you. I think the heroes of this No Borders book are largely the men from Ulster, from the 1960s, the 1970s and the 1980s, a time of terrible turmoil in Northern Ireland. These men, against terrible intimidation really, from paramilitaries on both sides, kept a United Ireland team together. They built bridges while others were trying to blow them up. And I really dedicate this book to all those great players from Northern Ireland. Thank you very much.
Tom English, congratulations on the award. This is not the first time that you've won Rugby Book of the Year.
Yeah, no, I won it a few years ago for a book called The Grudge about the Grand Slam match between Scotland and England in 1990, so I'm really delighted to win it again.
Good. And this is a story about Irish rugby, but told by the players.
Yeah.
Why was it so important for their voice to be telling the story?
Well, unfortunately, I never played for Ireland, so I thought the sensible thing was to get out of the way of the story and let the guys who did play for Ireland tell the story. And it goes from 1945 with Jack Kyle, the famous Ulster number 10, and it finishes with Johnny Sexton, the famous Leinster number 10 in 2015. So it's a kind of oral history. It's a 70-year conversation about Irish rugby, and that's the way I wanted it to come across, like this epic conversation that spans 70 years. What I like to think is the heart of the book is the passages from the 60s, 70s and 80s and some of the 90s which deal with the struggles in Northern Ireland and the struggles to keep the United Ireland team together. Throughout the last 100 years, there's been numerous times when that United Ireland team could have broken under the threat of paramilitaries, loyalists, Republicans. And it's really the strength of character of the players from Northern Ireland. Willie John McBride had to have police at his door every time he came to play to captain Ireland in Dublin. Some got death threats. It was a real difficult era for those guys. And you know, if you think about rugby now, you think about strength, and you think about how much can they bench press and how hard can they hit. I kind of learned doing this book what strength in rugby is all about, and I learned it from those guys from Ulster.
2 rugby books that have won awards. Have you got another book project on your mind already?
I won't tell you much. I have a book about a horse from 1908.
Oh, right.
But there's a bit of research that I have to do before it comes out.
All right, I won't press you on that just now. Congratulations on this award. Tom English, everybody.
Thank you.
Now, before we close tonight's proceedings, there's one final award to be presented. First, though, let's see the judges' deliberations.
Some of them had sort of political stories, some of them were pure sports stories, but very different sports, very different characters, very different books at the end of it. So it was good fun. I enjoyed it.
You know, there's some really very interesting and diverse characters, and some real champions of sport across the world.
But there were some that, as ever, I wouldn't have necessarily picked up without being part of this process, and actually really went on to enjoy.
I want not only to have a resume of a career, but I want to really know about the person, why that person, he or she, turned out to be the person who achieved.
What I wanted to present with this particular book is the awareness of what it was like to be a Formula One Grand Prix driver and the actual physicality of driving a Formula One car, and transport the reader into the car, qualifying and racing. And apparently, so I'm told with the feedback, to a certain extent we've actually achieved that, which is very thrilling. You know, it's a story from start to finish, a very authentic one. It's a bit of a roller coaster, but there's a message all the way through.
I said, when I was growing up, I said, we lived in Water Street, Accrington, in a terraced house. And we had an outside toilet. We didn't have a bathroom. And we had this tin bath. And every Friday, this tin bath come out in front of the fire. It was filled up with water. My dad got in first. My Uncle Harry got in second. Then I got in third. I was last in the tin bath. Bingo! That's the name of the book. So it started off as real light-hearted and a bit of fun, and we went from there, and we had some fun.
I really admire people who write books for a living, because it's an awful lot of work, and unless you're J.K. Rowling, it's not a lot of money. I can't deny that it was an interesting life to live, and so if I've done even a half-decent job of telling it, it was an interesting life to read.
Fortunately, my mother had kept very detailed scrapbooks of everything she could lay her hand on, which were invaluable to Lance Hardy when he was writing. So it doesn't rely on my memory, which is rubbish, because you do get quite skewed memory of things. I thought I won the '85 final, but apparently in the book I didn't. Dennis beat me.
Yeah, I think looking back over my career, I think it was a good thing. There was a lot of things that I liked to have forgotten, and a lot of things that I liked reading back and thinking what had happened. So I enjoyed it. I'd like to think they could get inspired by it. I think they can I would like to think that they can believe that if you work hard enough and if you keep trying hard enough, that things will happen and you can make them happen. And you know, I definitely felt that throughout my life.
It was an interesting, exciting journey, really. I was surrounded by very good people, you know, the publishers, the writer, Don, and also Paul Joyce, who gave us a touch as well. So,
for me, this year was difficult in a different way to last year, because there were 2 or 3 books that were quite close.
If you're a football fan, you know, you're going to absolutely love Stephen Gerrard's book. If you're a snooker fan, you're going to absolutely love what Steve Davis has got to say. You know, Formula One, Nigel Mansell.
Oddly, actually, I really enjoyed the Gerrard book. I'm a Chelsea season ticket holder, so I didn't expect to enjoy it at all, and I really enjoyed it. I also love Bumble's book. I thought that was a great read as well.
I was fascinated with the Max Mosley story.
And I enjoyed the early stuff about his parents, all the subsequent tabloid tales at the end. I thought it was a really good, strong book. And he was older and had a bigger story to tell, it felt to me. And he told it well, simply and elegantly, and I enjoyed that.
I think A.P. McCoy, again, for me, was another one that stood out. I mean, amazing sacrifices made. You know, I thought that rugby players had it pretty tough, but I think jockeys are right up there.
All right, welcome both. Brian, come on, tell us who's won, because we didn't get many clues from that, because you like them all. Straight off.
Max Mosley.
This is an extraordinary surprise, because my book is only partly a sports book, so I feel I'm slightly here under false pretenses. But having spent 18 years being the person giving out the prizes in the FIA, I now find myself receiving one, and it's a very great pleasure. I'm most grateful to everyone concerned, particularly my publisher and all the people who are working there, Maurice Hamilton, who checked out the facts. Many thanks to everybody, but above all, thanks to the judging panel, because this is a complete surprise. Thank you very much.
So that completes the Book of the Year Awards for 2016. What a tremendous year of fantastic writing. Now, remember that there remains some unfinished business, and that, of course, is for you to decide which of tonight's individual winners will carry off the title of Best Overall Cross Sportsbook of the Year in association with The Times. Here are all of tonight's winners, again on the screen. No easy task to choose a winner from such an illustrious list. We look forward to discovering who that winner will be.
And of course, thank you, the audience, and this audience, who have all journeyed with us throughout this year's Cross British Sportsbook Awards. So from me, Alison Mitchell, good night.
Other winners this evening included New Writer of the Year, Ed Caesar, 2 hours.
Okay, I didn't prepare a speech because I felt presumptuous.
Outstanding Sports Writing, Barbarian Days, A Surfing Life, William Finnegan. Cricket Book of the Year, Chasing Shadows, The Life and Death of Peter Roebuck, Tim Lane and Elliot Cartledge. Cycling Book of the Year, David Miller, The Racer.
So thank you for this, and thank you for this being the second year in a row that we have the Cycling Award.